Dolce Show.
'Cause you can, and you don't stop. 'Cause you can, and you don't stop. Oh, when you can, and you don't stop.
What's up, everybody? Yeah, welcome to the Mike Dolce Show. I'm so
WrestleMania.
Brad, let's go, baby. I got the mustache, right? We can do it. Excited to introduce you, my good friend, but my doctor, Dr. Chris Stepien of Barefoot Rehab in Denville, New Jersey, thank God, but also Adhesion Release Methods.com. And we're going to talk about all of that and what that stuff is. But first, how you doing, brother?
I'm doing wonderful. Thanks for having me, man. I'm so excited.
Absolutely. I just saw you, Wednesday?
A day or two ago, something like that.
2 days ago. And for everybody listening, you guys know Dr. Chris. I've talked about Dr. Chris many times here on the podcast before, going back September 2014 when I woke up paralyzed, pretty much paralyzed, could not get out of
2024.
2024. What did I say, 25?
It's 10 years. It doesn't matter.
It felt like, it felt like an eternity.
I get it.
Right? And this is where you live and breathe in the worlds of people like myself, many worse, of course, but also some maybe not quite as bad as I was. But you meet people oftentimes when they are at their most helpless, their most hopeless, and they are just terrified about what the future may bring. They are stuck in a world of pain. They have seen their life slowly get ripped away from them. Their entire identity has crumbled before them, and there's nothing that they can do. And each one of us has been failed by the traditional Western medical system, unfortunately. And then enter Dr. Chris Stepien and the adhesion release methods. For everyone here, can you just open up the conversation and explain maybe what you do to the layperson? What do you do specifically?
Yeah, I'm a glue doctor. I remove glue. We're adhesion release methods providers specialized in the diagnosis, or if they're not a doctor, if they're a massage therapist, the finding of fascial glue or adhesion, which I would argue is the most common cause of chronic musculoskeletal pain in 30 to 60-year-olds. It's a really big deal. 9 of 10 of our patients have never heard it before. They're one of 65 clinics in the world specializing it, and this adhesion stuff causes massive havoc. And most of our providers specialize in people who have had pain over 6 months, seen at least 3 doctor or therapists without relief. So they've tried chiropractic, PT, massage, cortisone shots, pain meds. Maybe they've already had surgery and they're still having pain and that didn't work for them, and we're the end of the line. And we've removed this glue primarily with our hands, or we have a little metal instrument called a grip bar, or sometimes we use radial shockwave, but it's mostly our hands to remove this glue, and we typically get real-time results. That doesn't mean everybody responds immediately, but it means that we'll see some type of change, whether in our hands, their range of motion, or a provocative test very quickly. And that's what allows us to move very quickly and fast in order to get somebody better. And it's very rewarding, and it helps a lot of people that have nowhere else to go. And I see this as the foundation of pain healthcare in the future, 5, 10, 20 years from now, when there are providers like me who know what they're doing and feeling and treating in order to get people better. And that's all within the context, obviously, of diagnosing someone's musculoskeletal condition correctly. And what that means is that we have to manage expectations as far as relief and what's possible. And we're not miracle workers. We just do a type of work that's not really done anywhere else. But we also have to know if somebody's problem is coming from a disc or a degenerated hip or a rotator cuff tear, or if they have a metabolic condition and need to see a functional medicine specialist, or they have emotional issues or trauma and they need to see a psychotherapist or do psychedelics or whatever else might be going on. It's all within the context of, this sounds like these are a list of problems. We're going to treat the adhesion part, and then we either need to refer you to somebody we know, or we need you to deal with the other pieces of your puzzle when it comes to getting out of pain and making your life better by becoming healthier and happier.
Understood. And I've lived what you just discussed. So for those listening who might have remembered my story or those brand new to the show, welcome. September 14th, 2024, I woke up and could not get out of bed. I was in a 10 out of 10 searing pain in my neck and, from my upper back to the base of my skull. And I had been dealing with discomfort in and around my neck, my clavicles. I was just like my rhomboids, my mid-back area. I was always in discomfort. And I thought it was like, well, hey, I just got to go to PT, which I did. I got to get acupuncture, which I did. I got to get like TENS units put on by different chiros, which I did. Chiropractic adjustment, which I don't get chiropractic adjustment. I haven't gotten adjustments in many years. I've had some ribs set by chiropractors. I think they're excellent because I'll pop ribs when I was fighting more often, grappling. I don't do any more of the spinal manipulation. And Chris, you can speak on this. No neck adjustments at all because I had been hurt during the adjustment. I don't blame the chiropractor. They just didn't have vision into the stenosis I was dealing with or the degeneration or the bulges. I had some issues going on. I was not a good candidate for those. So anyway, I go on a drive, take my family down to North Carolina for a family reunion. It was wonderful. 14-hour drive, I forget. Come home, sleep in my own bed, finally, wake up the next day. 10 out of 10 pain, couldn't get out of bed, didn't know what was going on, basically laid in bed for 20 hours until I had to roll off the side, crawl to the bathroom to relieve myself, and then wound up laying on the bathroom floor for hours more. That type of pain. And I will say, not in a egocentric way, I have a rather high pain threshold. It doesn't bother me as much. I'm not typically moved by physical pain. And I was in dramatic pain, like crippling, frozen pain. And then I kind of, hey, I got to go to a doctor. I got to go see an orthopedist, right? I got to find a spine doctor. And I went through a cycle, and I'm going to speed this story up, of going to multiple orthopedic doctors, non-surgical orthopedist, surgical orthopedist. I went to a brain and spine guy. They either wanted to put me on opioids, muscle relaxers, painkillers. They wanted to shoot me up with nerve blocks and anti-inflammatories, all of which have pretty traumatic negative side effects, specifically the longer term use. It gets worse and worse. And then the surgeons, of course, they wanted to cut me open. So I was basically say, hey, we got to fuse at least 2 of the discs and replace 2 or 3, but you might need a double fusion and then maybe replace 1 of 3. And I was like, what the? No. Like that was not yet an option for me as I was. And I knew I had to work the problem. I needed to give my body the space and the time to heal itself to the best of its ability, knowing I was in the acute stage of trauma. My body needed time and space, and then it needed me to support it. Like I saw this as like, I'm cornering my body now. I need to clear the path so my body can do what it's innately supposed to do, which is heal itself. And I think you, during one of our appointments, you had said something, I don't know if you remember, you said the body is constantly trying to heal itself. We just have to let it. I was like, yes. Like that's like Wile E. Coyote with the anvil just hitting me on the head, right? I'm like, duh, yeah, absolutely. So now fast forward, I worked with a few excellent physical therapists, and they were so gracious and kind, and they were helpful and they were caring, and they helped me to the best of their ability. And each one had a different skill set. They had a different perspective, a different skill set, and everything they did and taught me was beneficial. But it was not helping me get out of the pain that I was in. I was not able to reclaim movement. I was not able to reclaim any semblance of my previous life and identity. And that's after about 4 months, I'm time compressing. And then I'm laying on my back. I'm on a 45-degree wedge upside down. Sean Pastuch, our mutual friend, had mentioned, that. We spoke about that just for decompression. I'm going to right down the street. Thank God there's Thrive Spine and Sports Rehab. My buddy AJ Adamzak owns and runs that. I'm getting on his traction table 3 times a week religiously for months. They're doing whatever they can to help me. And I'm just treading water at a riptide. I could feel it's like I'm getting out of temporary relief. And in a day or two, it's right back to where it was. And emotionally, that was the most challenging part because I could feel my hope just slowly fading away. And God, am I ever going to be healed? And I was in a dark place, Chris. How can I live my life? How can I provide for my family? How can I be the husband my wife needs? How can I be the father to my daughters? I can't pick my daughters up. I can't drive my car. I can't carry a bag of groceries, let alone throw punches or lift weights or just like help an old lady across the street. I mean, I was dealing with a lot emotionally and physically. And then I'm scrolling, trying to find the answer. I'm scrolling all the social media. I'm in the algorithms. The algorithms are good. Oh my God, they're good. And then poof, I get this video of this jacked doctor in his green scrubs, and he's working on a client that is speaking words in my own head of what he was dealing with. And I was like, this is weird. Like this guy, exactly what he was saying was exactly what I was feeling. And then here's this jacked doctor talking about it and then doing this manual therapy I had never seen before. Now, I'm 30 years into the elite performance coaching industry, working with elite athletes since the late 90s. We're here in the year 2026. I got 97 world titles that have been won by my athletes. I've been at the Olympic Training Center. I've worked with the best of the best of the best. I have never heard of this before in my entire life. And the average person listening, 100% has not. I'm aware. I knew of peptides back in 2010. 2009, 2010, I knew peptides. I knew athletes on peptides. I knew all the early doctors out of Florida that were prescribing peptides. So I was aware of things before the rest of the world even understood it. I never heard of this. And I'm watching it. I start going through the Barefoot Rehab adhesion release method rabbit hole. And then I see Dr. Sean Pastuch, who was literally on last week's episode. But I've known Sean for a few years. We were spoke at a conference together in Austin, Texas years ago. That's how Sean and I became friends. I see Sean there. I was like, what the hell? I call him. I'm like, hey, man, who's this Chris Stepien guy? Is this guy full of shit? Because it's like it sounded so good, too good to be true, Chris. Yeah. And Sean goes, Mike, listen, Chris is the real deal. In fact, and this was why I love Sean, his humility. Yeah. Sean had said, I stopped manually treating my patients because I will never be as good as Dr. Chris Stepien. So when my patients need manual therapy, I send them to Dr. Chris. I don't do that anymore. That was the testimony I needed. And then I think maybe that night, I reached out to you or your office, right? You, thank God. I mean, the graciousness, you got on the phone with me after hours, maybe on your drive home. We had a conversation. You put me in touch with Kim later on that same, hour or so. And then that same week, I'm in your office. And that's really where I got my hope back. Now, maybe I'll pause there because that's long, but that's background for everyone listening to introduce who Dr. Chris is to me, why he's on the show, why I want to introduce you to our global audience. And then I want to talk more. Maybe if it's okay, we'll use a little bit of my own case because I'm, full disclosure. Chris was also on Sean Stevenson's The Model Health Show last month. Everybody here knows The Model Health Show, top rated podcast in the world. Sean is amazing. And you and Sean had such a great conversation. So everyone needs to go listen to that. But when I walked into your office, I was scared of driving to you because I didn't know if I could make it to you. And then I didn't know if I would be able to make it home. And then in your office, and I'll shut up here in a moment, you did a bunch of hands-on manual therapy. And what was crazy is I didn't even tell you what hurt, what thing here, there. You just started putting hands on me and you immediately started to feel the exact areas I was suffering from, which I wanted you to talk about that in a moment. But then when the appointment was over, I remember I was like, wow. I could like feel all the spots that you were touching. I walk into your restroom, and since September 14th of 2024, I could no longer bend over at my sink and wash my hands or brush my teeth. I actually had to like squat down and like kind of push my knees into the cabinet under the sink and like squat down because I could not forward flex. I couldn't lean forward. I couldn't lean forward and then extend through my cervical and thoracic spine. So I had to like really convolute my body posture to wash my hands and brush my teeth. So I leave, Chris's therapy room. I walk to his restroom and I turn on the sink and I'm bent over at the sink and I'm just washing my hands. And I looked up in the mirror, and that was the first time I had done that in 5 months since that was late January, since September. That's when I knew, holy shit. Like I just experienced a miracle. A miracle just happened. And I was almost brought to tears. And that, Chris, was the first time I believed I was going to be able to heal and I was going to be able to get back to my old life again. So that is the introduction I want to share with you as my testimony for you. And then if you can start to now maybe pick apart the things that I've said, there's no direct question in here. There's more of an opening for you to jump in.
Yeah. First, your story, and you saw our patient telling the same story. Unfortunately, that's most of our patients. They've tried a lot of things. They can't do the things that they want. They're scared. Not only are they scared if they live with family, their families are scared. Their families come in and say, our lives are being infected because our family member is suffering. I might have to stop work. This is impacting my entire life. I don't know what else to do. I think that in story is very important because sometimes I hear people in the healthcare field who are influencers talk about chronic pain as if people aren't really deeply suffering, and also like there are always answers. And this doesn't fix everybody. And to be honest, we have people come in here who are completely effed. And I saved one guy from suicide. I lost 2 others to suicide from pain. The story is really important. And not that I'm grateful that you were suffering, but I'm grateful for the story that you shared. I believe you said that there was some fear there because I think I mentioned to you at one point, but the more people I have like you that are able to tell their stories, the more impact they're going to be able to have other people to save their lives. Yeah. That's part one, is the story. And okay, as far as you tried a lot of things, there's no substitute or replacement for getting rid of your adhesions. And there are surgeons who are starting to cut this stuff. There's a deep gluteal syndrome. You can search it on YouTube, where surgeons will have the butt cheek open without arthroscopy. So it's like open surgery. Yeah. And they'll talk about the sciatic nerve, where it is. And then they'll say, here's this fibrovascular bands, they call it. Here's the adhesions. It looks like white spider webby stuff because that's what fascia is made of, but it's just thickened and glued up. And then they'll show the sciatic nerve, which is as thick as my index finger, and there's no blood flow going through it. And then they'll cut the fibrovascular bands adhesion, and then all of a sudden the blood perfuses through the sciatic nerve. Surgeons are starting to recognize it. The sad part for people, the good part for providers who do this, is that there really is no substitute for this. You can't strengthen it. You can't stretch it out. You can't massage it. You can't just get your disc in your low back or neck replaced and expect the adhesions to be gone. That's why this ended up working for you, thank goodness, because adhesions were overloading your C7T1 disc enough to not allow it to heal and recover. And that's why you couldn't move your neck. You had all these symptoms. You still have some symptoms when you bring your chin down your chest and it's in your tricep. Yeah. And that's a really good example of sclerotogenous pain, which all that means is that a certain area of the spine or a joint refers and shoots to another spot. So that's one of the things that we teach our providers and that we do is when somebody has a location with symptoms and they have provocative tests and they have a history, we have to put all these puzzle pieces together. We call it diagnostic duck hunting to figure out between 5 local tissues, muscle, ligament, nerve, tendon, organ, and then 5 referred tissues, muscle, trigger point, sclerotogenous pain, peripheral nerve, dermatomal pain, and visceral pain. Where does this, based on that location, provocative motions primarily, where does that fit into the symptom pattern? So when we did our exam, it looked like a C7T1 disc issue. I think you had an MRI by then that confirmed that, but our history and our exam confirmed that as well. But then when we did the exam, I appreciate what you said about feeling good about me feeling spots, because I hear that probably at least 50% of the exams I do, I didn't tell you anywhere besides the main spot that hurt, but you touched all the spots that hurt. Yep. And we have a palpation sheet that probably has 20 rows and 2 columns. And I'm just going through tissue and I'm telling Kate, this spot's moderate to severe, this spot's severe, this spot's clean, this spot's mild, moderate. And I tell people purposely, don't really tell me where your symptoms are, because I want them to know when I find the spot. And I'll sit there for a second, maybe I'll push on the nerve and they'll say, I don't understand how you're finding all these spots. And I'll typically go into the majority of people's chronic pain or adhesions are located around peripheral nerves. That's the main thing we treat as peripheral nerve entrapment. So we find all those spots. And then by the time I give the report of findings about what's going on, they will typically just nod to me and say, when are we starting? Because they feel like they can trust me based on what I explained. And especially when I'm not promising the world and I'm telling them, your disc in your neck is pretty bad, or your hip joint's very degenerated. And at the same time, 80% of the people who come into our office have some level of relief that they are happy and excited about. There's a 4 out of 5 chance that you are going to be very happy that you found us and you had a similar experience. And I didn't know about that bathroom thing where you're washing your hands. You didn't tell me that, but I'm glad that you had, ideally, most of the time within 1 to 5 treatments, will have some level of relief that they're on the right track. Gets a little bit cloudier when people are 10 visits in and they're not any better yet. And it depends on how confident I am with my skill level. So you got fast results, but most people are getting some type of result or change or shift relatively quickly. So they know they're not wasting time, energy, or money, which is a big concern for people in the chronic pain market. As far as people who are suffering, is that they're scared another chiropractor is going to say, come in for 100 treatments. Here's this big treatment package. Don't get me wrong, we're expensive too, but there's this big treatment package. They're going to have to get 100 times, and then they're going to be told, we just need to keep adjusting you, or some other type of expensive thing that isn't as promising. And now I'm never certain, because chronic pain is hard and complicated, but we have a pretty damn good track record of fixing people. And the more that we can tell the story, Mike, between you and I, the more that we can get more people out of pain and help them who are suffering. How'd I do?
Bang, out of the park. And that's why I wanted to have this conversation. That's why I've given you like full authority to tell my story to whomever you want, as often as you want, as widely as you want, because I want you to start saving people more than you currently are, which is why you're on the show right now, why I want to talk about, like, why I want to fully disclose my own situation. Because it was, for those who are suffering with pain and feel lost, I use the term helpless and hopeless. And that's not just the physical pain. Now we're talking about the emotional pain. And this is what robs people of their lives. This is what robs families of their mom or dad or their husband or wife, or, this is really where I believe a lot of the greatest benefit, the secondary effect, is in helping humans reclaim who they are and refine purpose 100%. Once again. You can't think clearly when you're in pain. And when you're in pain, you stop doing things that you would naturally do. I can't do that. My back hurts. I can't go up those stairs anymore. My knee hurts. I'd love to go on that vacation, but I just can't because I have this other pain. And now slowly people start to just melt away into these dark little holes in their lives. And then that becomes their life.
Yeah.
They rob themselves of all the experiences. They rob their family and friends of all, the memories that they could be having. So, to share my little testimony here is to get, our audience understanding of what I went through, and then, my endorsement of you and what you do, and seeing, I've sat in your waiting room and I've talked to people that flew in from around the world to see you, or from around the country to see you. It's funny. It's very rare that I'm in your waiting room and there's someone from New Jersey who's there. And I was like, wow, I got to drive 90 minutes each way to go and see Doc. That's a far drive. And then there's someone who drove in from Tennessee or North Carolina or Germany. And I laugh. I'm like, oh, and they're like, oh, you're so lucky. Or Pennsylvania, 4 hours each way. I'm like, oh my God. So your office is typically filled with people from around the world. And I say that because you don't have to be in New Jersey to get the benefit. And I know, what you do is like world class, but you also have the adhesion release methods, and you are now teaching other practitioners. I'm going to let you speak on this because I've been there multiple. I mean, I see Chris literally every Wednesday or Thursday. I drive, I take the day off. I work a little in the morning, a little later on in the evening, but that is my time to go and drive the 90 minutes to spend, 30 minutes to an hour. Maybe I try and, kick around and hang out in the office with the staff a little bit longer. Right. And I'll walk around the corner to the barn. I'll grab myself an iced Americano. I'll sit on the bench and people watch for a few, and I'll make the 90-minute drive back home. And it's a wonderful day. And so, seeing that and being a part of that, I've been there, and you've had people, other practitioners that you're training, like at your facility. So now let's talk about the practitioners you've now trained and the movement that you're, embarking on in getting the word out more.
Yeah. I try not to talk about my past too much, but I think it's really important that I've struggled with depression almost all my life. Suicidal ideation. I fantasized about it when I was like 10 to 19 years old, and I have had periods or episodes. That's important because I've suffered a lot in darkness and wished death upon myself, and was too scared as a kid to do anything about it. And I share that because when I was in second grade, I either wanted to be a professional football player, an American gladiator, or a veterinarian. I knew that I liked physical stuff. I liked throwing my body around. I liked the sport. And then I also liked taking care of what I thought was animals. And then I got older. I wanted to be a chiropractor, and I wanted to work for the New York Giants. Yeah. And then as I went through school, found this adhesion stuff and beyond, I realized that the people who I knew who worked for the professional teams weren't really fulfilled. They kind of like the status that came with it, but a lot of people ended up leaving some of the teams that I knew of. I knew one of the Bills chiropractors. I knew one of the Steelers chiropractors. And I realized that I could have an opportunity to impact people who are really suffering. Maybe not with emotional suffering, although it does lead to emotional suffering, but it's that the physical pain that leads to emotional suffering. And I started doing that, and it started being really cool. And when my previous mentor, Dr. Brady of Integrative Diagnosis, retired in 2020, I had been training a lot over the past 10 years, probably in the top 5 to 7 of all of his students. And I looked at the people who were probably a little bit ahead of me, and no one at the time was going to train new providers. And I thought to myself, is it okay that I curse?
Oh, please.
Okay.
Yeah, we are X-rated.
Okay. X-rated. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll take my shirt off.
Hands go.
I thought to myself, that leaves me. Around that time's when I hired Bedros Koulian to coach me. I was like, I have to do this thing. And I realized I had an opportunity to, instead of just impacting one person at a time with my patients, I have leverage. I can get more providers in the world doing this work so it doesn't die. And now I can really scale this and help more people. So we're 4 years old now. I think we have about 45 providers right now. It's a relatively stringent application process, and we find chiros, massage therapists, a naturopath, some osteopaths. I think I said acupuncturist, I'm not sure. who want to specialize in non-surgical chronic pain relief, and we help them learn how to think through this adhesion problem, how to feel through the adhesion problem, how to communicate it, so that they can become really amazing providers. And there is a really long path to mastery. I've been doing this since 2009. I spent $150,000 on my chiro education. I've probably spent $250,000 to $300,000 on learning this stuff. I continue to train with my mentors 8 times a year. So why I share that's important is because if somebody is aware that adhesions exist, has felt nerves in a hands-on training with us in New Jersey, has felt tissue slide, has felt adhesion start to lengthen and tear, they are now at least on a path that 99% of other providers are not on. And then they're on the path and they're starting to move along it. And when my mom in Florida was having chronic pain, who did I send her to? I sent her to Dr. Andy at Veracity Spine and Sport in Bradenton, because I don't want my mom or somebody I care about seeing somebody who doesn't treat adhesions, because they know how to communicate. They know what to find and feel. And these providers come in here. This past weekend, we had 21 people in this room over here, and as far away as Australia, Switzerland, Washington State, Canada. And we did the upper extremity. So we did the nerves coming out of here, underomohyoid, NBS at pec minor, the neurovascular sleeve in the armpit, and then we did the median radial and ulnar nerves in the hands. And we spent 12 hours finding and feeling the tissue and talking about how this stuff presents and what to look for. But it was mostly just feeling stuff, because that's our special sauce, and that's the thing that people outside of our field who shame me and tell me I should go to jail, or they wish I was dead, because I was saying to people that adhesions are real. You can feel nerves and you could also tear adhesion, because the research says currently that you can't tear this stuff. So these providers, I'm extremely inspired by them, because they're paying $10,000 to $20,000 per year. It's hard. It's difficult. But what I appreciate about them is that they said they want to get better outcomes. They want to work less hard with their hands. They want to make more money. And every provider, every chiropractor, PT, massage therapist says that. Every human being says they want to make more money, or they want to lose weight in your world. They want to do different things. But most people, their actions and their words are out of integrity. They're out of alignment. And these people are doing it. And it's very difficult, but they're on the path, and they're learning, and they're treating, and they're helping me help more people in chronic pain.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I mean, ultimately, I'm sure you would love to have a provider in every major city, in every town, right? And I know I've had, because, my own clientele, we have our VIP clients that I work with and coach personally, and many of them have issues. And I say, I'll reach out to you. I said, let me talk to Dr. Chris. I said, if you can go to New Jersey first, go to New Jersey and see Dr. Chris. Otherwise, let's see if one of his licensed providers are in a close enough area, short plane ride, couple hour drive for you to get to. And I know that a couple of your providers have been, thank God, and every single one has had tremendous benefit from it. But I know that there's more. So, call out if you are a chiropractor, licensed massage therapist. Who else would be a good candidate to learn more about what you do?
Anyone who can legally do hands-on work. Or we've had a lot of people thinking about massage therapy school, and they talk to me, or they're thinking about chiropractic school, and they'll talk to me, and I'll say, yeah, I mean, if you want to do this, and they tell me a little bit about their background and what they want to do. Typically, I point them to massage therapy school over chiropractic. I don't think it's worth the investment. It's much shorter, and then we could teach them stuff. But even people who are thinking about a career shift or change, anyone who can do manual therapy, who wants to be an elite top 1% provider, who wants to change people's lives, who wants to make really good money, and who wants to, I think of life very holistically. So for me, I can't go to sleep well at night knowing that I'm not transforming people. And most of our providers are very heart-centered people. So heart-centered, history of hardworking, willing to overcome their fears and their shame, their self-worth issues to overcome. Those are people who are good fits for this. Now, I still do struggle with some of our providers in their head trash. I was just thinking yesterday, because we have a goal by 2055, 29 years from now, to help 50 million people get out of chronic pain. And I was thinking to myself yesterday, I don't know if that fucking goal is. I'm struggling with some of our providers to get their shit done. So I was thinking to myself, maybe I just need to focus on, in 30 years, 100 amazing providers, 2 in every state in the United States, maybe 50 across the world. I'm just kind of explaining, this is hard and it's difficult. It's easy and more digestible than it's ever been, but people are still going to have to be willing to fail over and over and over again. The good news is any successful person I know, you included, because we've talked about this, have failed more than anyone else. So I just need to continue to find those resilient, really caring people. There are easier ways to make money, but I haven't seen any other ways in the healthcare field to be more fulfilled than doing this work.
Yeah, well, if for those prospective practitioners, if it is a concept or if they're challenged about the money, I would say I drive 3 hours for a single appointment with you that is more expensive than the amazing massage therapist that's literally 3 blocks from my house, who's amazing and is booked out 4 months in advance. So the ability for a practitioner who provides this type of relief to double or triple or quadruple what their treatment rates will be, people like me, I will happily pay. I have spent tens of thousands of dollars on other practitioners or services for my injuries that did do absolutely nothing for me. And those with this type of pain, this type of need, and there are 50 million of us out there? Is that the
in the United States?
In the US alone, let's say there's only 1 million of them that are willing to spend $10,000 a year on relief. That's a fucking lot, right? So from a monetary, and you could probably go down the numbers if you wanted to or not, the ability to dramatically increase your revenue per hour worked. And this is what we look at with because I coach coaches in the health and fitness space. And I always tell all of our coaches, the average personal trainer charges $40 to $80 an hour, and that's $60 an hour. I said, that's bullshit. The average lawyer is charging $250 an hour. You should be making lawyer money as a personal trainer, because health and fitness is much more valuable than contract review, in my opinion. Right. So there's a lot of bogus industries out there that have this esteem with regards to how much they charge, but the value they provide does not represent the money that you've paid. If you can be an outlier inside your industry, if you provide very specialized skills that produce results, you can charge whatever you want. And last, I talk about the 5 R's of success to the groups that I coach. R number 1 is research. Know your topic inside and down, upside and down, left side and right. Number 2 is results. So research, I know everything, or I know as much as I can, and I've constantly never stopped learning. Results, I must be able to provide results every single time without fail. I'm providing results. I'm driving this great value. From the results, then comes the reputation. Your reputation is your results plus your integrity. I do this for these many people, and here's my testimonials. It works. And I'm a really good person to deal with. You will recommend your mother, your wife, and your daughter to me. If you will not do that, I failed you, regardless if I fixed you. If I didn't leave you with the impression that I'm that trustworthy, we failed you. Number 4 is then resume. Here's the list of all the humans I've helped over this period of time, my resume. And finally, number 5, that's where we get to the rewards. That's where you can start charging a hell of a lot more money than the average person down the street, right? So the 5 R's of success. Now to swing that back to you, I'm selling your system here, but I'm a world-class coach. I can talk to and get anybody on the phone in the world with any question that I have. If I'm going so far to drive myself and pull money out of my own pocket, that is because it works. Because I can get a lot of stuff for free. It's because it works. So then the ability, and you're not the biggest problem is replicating what you do. Yeah. There has to be more Dr. Chris Stepians around the country, around the world. I don't know if I talk to a single person that's not in pain. Like if you want to work with elite athletes, if you want to work with pro athletes, if you want to work with collegiate or high school athletes, if you want to work with ladies playing pickleball and you don't know the adhesion release methods and you're a hands-on practitioner, you are doing a disservice to your clientele. Yeah. So like you said earlier, having at least the knowledge of it will automatically put them in the top 1%. The majority of the people I've worked with, the practitioners, they don't even know it exists. They're not even aware of it. And then guys like Sean who do say, you got to go to Dr. Chris.
Yeah. Yeah. It's once you know about this. So Oliver was just here for 3 weeks from Switzerland. He trained. Yeah. You met him. He trained for 48 hours total. He shadowed. He slept in my house a few days. Wonderful guy. And he right now he's training with the rotational fitness guy in San Diego. I forget. He just flew out. But I was like, well, what do you think about this? Am I going to see you again? What do you want to do? And he said, how do you go back? How do you go back? Which I was like, you're damn right. How do you go back? I don't know. Yeah. People do go back. I've had a few people churn out. Yeah. And then I was talking to a massage therapist yesterday who does some adhesion release methods work. She's in her first year. She's doing some massage work. She'll communicate about adhesion release methods, and then they'll either want massages or they'll just leave because she's trying to communicate the adhesion work. And I asked her if she believed in this work. She said yes. I asked her, did she communicate that what this is doing to people? Because if an adult says, I don't know, like you said, any adults that don't have some type of chronic issue, not something that's lasting all the time 24/7, but if something is recurring, people don't really think about that as chronic pain. Yeah. And if something is recurring, that means you could prevent that thing from recurring so that you prevent joint degeneration, which is generally irreversible damage. And that means that when a massage therapist is communicating to their clients about, do you want to do massage or adhesion release methods, we just have to ask them the questions to say, do you have any symptoms that just come back, or you're tight, or you feel any type of thing with this or that? If I'm having a good conversation with somebody, I can pretty much convert anybody into an adhesion release methods client, because nobody will want any recurring pain or even to be preventative about chronic pain. This adhesion stuff is so ubiquitous and prevalent that if you get it early, you can prevent a massive amount of issues as far as surgeries and early aging and all the other stuff that comes with it. So I appreciate how you said that. It's how do we, part of what I bang my head against the wall about is trying to get this out there for not only the chronic pain sufferers, but for the providers to realize that we're very early in this process as far as the adoption of this. But 5-10 years from now, our reputation is going to be way better than it already is. We generate 300 to 500 leads, people in chronic pain across the world per month. And I'm charging $350 per visit right now. My associate KG is $135 per visit. But if a provider is learning this stuff right now, 5 years from now, if they're not making $500 per visit, 15 to 20 minutes, something is very, very wrong. And I'm not saying that it's all about money. I'm saying that this is a value exchange. And most people I know with chronic pain, even if I've had a gas station attendant pay me $3,500 up front when my rates were $250 a few years ago, he was very happy to pay it because he got out of pain and he was able to live his life again. So when a provider can make money that is valuable to them, that they can give to their family and live a high quality of life, and then they also know that people are giving value for that they're getting back, that's a very fulfilling exchange that occurs. And because I do this, my partner Katie's been sick for 5 years. We've talked about her. I've been able to pay for her health care. My boys have my emotional and ADHD type of mind, and they go to a nature co-op school. because I make decent money, I'm able to provide for my family in a way that I don't know if every other doctor can. And I think that's very important, especially the men providers, because that's what men typically do. The men are supposed to go out and hunt and bring back the bison or the deer and feed their family. Our new age bison is money to be able to provide whatever our families might need. So I don't want people who are in chronic pain to think it's not about money, but it is important that providers get paid well. And then we could talk about the whole health insurance system and how much of a shit show it is. And I fully get it. And people DM us all the time and say, I can't afford it. What do I do? And I try to take on some freebie patients here or there and to help where I can. And all of my friends know what I do and all my family knows what I do. And they ask me for help. And I try to help as much as I can. And I try to have boundaries about it. So the health insurance system is a shit show, but it's important that providers get paid well because it will incentivize them to continue wanting to serve. And then when I tell the providers who don't care about raising their rates, raise your rates for 90% of your clients, and 10% of your clients have an application process who people can afford it, and then take care of those people. But you need to provide for yourself because you're going to be retired at 65. Inflation's going up, and you need to take care of yourself for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's such a good point. And there are so many, I mean, my industry, your industry, they're so similar in that many of the coaches, the doctors, the practitioners will work themselves to the bone and not really make any money. So then they're not their best self for any of their clients. And with my philosophy, the way that I work, I will charge top dollar to those who can afford the value that I provide. And in return, they will get 100 of the value that they deserve and then some. There are folks that cannot afford the type of coaching that I provide. Now, free books and free PDFs and free downloads and free. We try and give away as much free content as possible. But there is that paywall for those who need an exceptional level of attention and have the resources to exchange for that type of attention. Yeah. That is where we actually run the business. And to your point, we then have the emotional bandwidth to provide free information for anyone who might not yet be able to afford that, or the ability to refer out to coaches who maybe they just don't charge the same rate, or they don't quite have the same skill set, but they are less expensive. And that is so much better. If you look at the white belt, a white belt can learn from a blue belt and a blue from a purple, brown, black. If you want to work with a black belt, I mean, let's walk into a jiu-jitsu school. You're going to work with a black belt. You're going to pay $400 at least for a personal session. You're going to work with a blue belt. You're going to buy him a cup of coffee, and he's going to be happy to roll with you and do the thing, right? So in this realm, I agree completely. But also I know that it's not about, for the patients out there, those who are in pain, what will you pay to be out of pain and get your life back? Right. And then look at your budget today. This is what I do on my sales calls. Look at how much money you waste. I'm looking at them in their background. I'm like, well, you got the newest iPhone. I don't. Yeah. I'm still rocking the iPhone 13. You got what, the iPhone 19? What that set you back? Oh, you got the 15. You got the 13, the 15, the 17. Oh, okay. How much money have you waste? What kind of shoes do you have on right now? What did you spend at what did you spend in the restaurant last week? And we'll break that down. We'll typically break down their grocery shopping, their restaurants are out to eat. And it usually turns out that you're actually losing money by not working with us. Yeah, exactly. Right? What do they pay in copay? I know the last MRIs that I got, I have healthcare. I got really good healthcare. I got MRIs done. Cost me $700 on top of all the money I already pay for my healthcare, a couple grand a month and deductible. I got hit with another $700 bill. What the fuck, man? So to the point is, you can extract yourself from a lot of that. Pay for the quality of service that you will be getting for a rather finite period of time. And Chris, I know that you have a system that's set up. Like, if after a certain number of sessions,
Yeah.
you're going to tell the patient, we had that conversation. I remember being like, oh no, like, I hope I'm still allowed to keep coming here because I know it's working. What criteria is he using? Where you're going to tell your patients, hey, listen, like after however many sessions, I don't think that we can help you based upon whatever the issue is, the injury is. And it's not like you're going to keep milking them for money. So can maybe talk a little bit about that, how you go through that qualification process to make sure that it's a right fit.
Yeah, it's PRP, not platelet-rich plasma, but palpation, range of motion, and provocative movements have to change visit to visit. If nothing else, just palpation, what we feel under our hands, the tissue has to soften, the trigger points have to go away, the nerve needs to move more where before it was stuck and wouldn't move. At minimum, that has to change, but ideally palpation and then the ranges of motion and provocative tests change 95% of the time. As long as that stuff happening, we keep treating people. If that is not happening, typically it's a conversation that something else is going on, or I'm probably going to refer them to surgery, which I don't do very often. I think I've referred 2 people for surgery this year. But if tissue is changing, my mentor is better at it than me. The better I get at feeling tissue, the longer I will treat somebody before I punt. So Dr. Matt, who you met in St. Louis at Precision Health Group, he's like, Chris, I don't punt. People will self-discharge themselves from my care, but if I feel the tissue changing, at some point you're taking load off of the area enough for them to know that they're on the right path. But if somebody wants to stop, or if I tell them to stop, then we refund them the rest of the case fee that they didn't use those visits. And then they're not just out whatever my case fee is, $5,000 right now, and they know that they didn't just waste money. We don't want to do that. I'm working with my head and my self-worth stuff around, continuing to get myself in the place where I'm not punting because I'm so good at feeling. And my hands continue to get better, and the better a provider's hands get, then the more confident that they're going to know that they're going to be able to help somebody. I had a 72-year-old medical doctor from PA. I think he was probably the longest taking me so far. I think it was about 15 treatments. It was 0% relief. And he's a super nice guy. He never questioned it. And all of a sudden, his neck started getting better and his low back started getting better. And I'm like, okay, this is sometimes I used to tell people 5 visits or less, they're going to get some level of relief. But the more expensive I've gotten, the harder the cases I get. And the harder the cases I get, and they've had pain for 30 years, something is very overloaded. They have so much adhesion that it could just take time. But yeah, people can stop whenever they want. They get a refund. And I'm using those markers for, are things changing? Are their symptoms changing? Is my palpation changing? Are the tissue changing? Is the range of motion changing? The provocative test changing? And those indicators typically happen in the first 1 to 5 treatments. So then it works itself out anyway.
And let's generalize for a moment. What would you say is the most common ailment that patients come to you with? Is there a hierarchy of okay, what would that be?
Let's go by body region. Low back and hip by far. So low back disc problems, what people think is sciatica or piriformis syndrome, something around the low back and hip, probably because the way humans live and because we're sitting so much and probably not training properly. That's by far the biggest. Number 2 is neck and upper back. So I would say cervical disc problems, most likely some type of degeneration, arthritis. All the texting is not helping. Saw a year or 2 ago my first 13-year-old who had a disc problem from putting his head down like this all the time. That was crazy. 3rd is going to be lower extremity. So thighs, knees, ankles, feet. And then 4th is going to be upper extremity. And so that's why we typically start our providers training with low back and hip. The tissues are bigger than the neck. And it's also the most bang for their buck because they're going to see more low back and hip patients than any other body region.
Yeah, and it makes sense. It's interesting maybe that very little, we use our hands more than anything else, right? You don't really hear a lot about hand and wrist by proxy, right? But neck, what does your neck really do all day long? But you're right, that kind of forward head posture, right, on your phone, the J neck, I think that they're calling it now. And then that extension, right? So sitting poorly, you're sitting all day long, you're compressing, you're usually shifting to one side or the other. You're in that forward cross syndrome. You're just creating this really dysfunctional spine. And I know because I've had my own low back issues, low back, hip, shoulder. Like, it's great that I came to you with the cervical spine issue, neck, upper back, and a little bit of my hip and shoulder. It's now, I feel like we're peeling back the onion of all of my past traumas and injuries, that now that the neck is, dare I say, healed, because I don't even go to you for neck anymore. For a little while, it was like my low back was a little flared up, which made my hip, it felt like it was a hip problem, but it was really a disc problem in my low back, right? Which, thanks to you, I think 3 or 4 sessions in, poof, that went away. And then now I'm like, oh, my shoulder is a little bit off. So it's like we're working now on the lesser problems on the original list that I had. I wasn't even aware of my shoulder issue until my bigger issue got quiet. And then I started to realize, oh, wow, my shoulder's a little jacked up too. I can't, because I could never get it up overhead. I always had that weird kind of like, 4-finger maybe instead of a 2-finger, and it was pulled forward down a little bit. So now we're working through all that stuff, which is fun.
Yeah, what people don't realize, what you were talking about, the upper extremity or the arm or the hand, I would argue that that's the most unloaded tissue in our body because it's just hanging here. Our feet, we're doing a lot of load with them because we're standing, walking around. Low back and hip is always loaded. We're sitting, standing. Our neck is being loaded too. Even just being here, there's load. When I say load, there's force. It's physics. There's load on our body. People ask all the time, say permanent sustained relief, and we mean it, but they're not going to live in a vacuum. They're not in outer space. We have gravity pushing our bodies down into earth. Our body's always being loaded. The amount of people we see who have symptoms increase when they're sleeping is very high. Now they're side lying, the load is a lot less, but their body position based on whatever is going on with their tissue, there's still load there. So it's, generally speaking, I like Pastuch's definition, pain's a negative emotional response to a stimuli, but also from our perspective, pain is when load exceeds capacity, and there's some type of tissue response to that. And the reason why I could say that is because of how quickly we can make changes in their pain by treating their tissue and having symptoms feel better, which indicates we increase their capacity. It's like each tissue has a bucket. How much load or water can fit inside the bucket? And when there's not enough room inside the bucket, the load is going in the bucket, and then they're spilling outside of the bucket. That's overload, or that's a symptom. And then each tissue will express some type of symptom. I would even argue, even metabolic functional medicine, medical doctors, I've had prostatitis before. If my prostate is overloaded, I will get an ache. It feels like my balls weigh 50 pounds and I have to go take a bath. So organs can get overloaded. When there's overload on our tissues, that's when they express a symptom in the form of some type of damage, degeneration, or inflammation. And then that's how we can figure out what is going on with each tissue. So we remove the adhesion to increase capacity so the body can handle load. And then that's when strengthening becomes vitally important. And then all of the metabolic stuff, the emotional stuff, relationships, stress, sleep, getting sunlight, putting our feet in the grass to ground, all of that helps recovery. And it also enhances all the other metabolic pathways about how the mitochondria produce energy to help us heal and recover faster, or vice versa. And that's why what we do is very reductionist. We're saying we treat adhesion and it's probably going to probably be a big deal when we remove it, and usually it is. But also I have to remind myself sometimes, also my normal chiropractic education is not very reductionist. It's more vitalistic or holistic or more Eastern philosophy, and everything matters. So right now we have this little course that we've been working on. I think I told you about it. I've changed a bunch of dynamics. It's called painfreenerveprotocol.com. It's $9 a month. And I'm putting in there everything I can possibly think of outside of hands-on treatment that's going to help people get out of pain, heal, recover, just feel better with their mood, make pain not be a big deal, because that stuff matters too. And I don't want to have people, I want to get people out of pain, but I also want them to do everything else it takes so that when they're 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, they are as healthy as possible, not suffering as possible, because most humans suffer before they die. And that's probably one of my biggest fears. And I was reflecting a couple of weeks ago that this is probably why I got into this, because I thought I wanted to get into like hospice death doula work over the past few years. And I still want to do that. But I was like, I'm not as scared of death as I am as suffering before death.
Yeah.
So the adhesion stuff is extremely important to minimize joint degeneration and musculoskeletal pains and aches before we die. But then all of the other stuff is important for our metabolic health when it comes to being an 80-year-old and being as close to as functional as I am now. So I need as little naps as I could possibly need, and I could still walk and do some exercise and be present with my loved ones. So that's where the adhesion stuff is one part of the whole holistic puzzle, which, I mean, you know this with your background and all the nutrition and diet stuff you do.
Yeah, you know, it's such a good point, Chris, that when I was dealing with my issues and then started working with you, initially I was like, hey, I just want to get back to doing what I was doing. I wanted to get back to training hard and like being able to like, you know, go and box and like, you know, wrestle with the college guys, because I was doing all that stuff. I want to go back to do that stuff. And then I was going through like when all that was ripped away from me, I realized like, fuck, I'm about to be 50. I have another 50 years to go. And it completely reframed my goal and my purpose. I want to be pain-free and active when I'm 60 and 70 and 80 and 90 and above. I want to be able to be physically active. I say athletic expression. I want to be able to express myself athletically through all mediums, although I don't have to deadlift 600 pounds and I don't have to wrestle a college All-American anymore to be athletic and dare I say pain-free. I want to be able to travel the world with my wife and my kids and my grandkids and coach my clients and run my businesses and engage in the world. And I really had to like stop and say, oh, what am I doing? Like, I'm not training for the 25-year-old version of myself. Yeah. I'm now training for something differently. I'm training now for the future. And that's the way I've reframed a lot of what I'm doing now is I'm training for the decade ahead. I'm not training for tomorrow. But as a byproduct, I'm slowly getting myself into the best shape of my adult life in every parameter, right? Mm-hmm. Not going to ever deadlift that type of silly weight again, but I can hinge and feel great. And I can probably unilaterally a single leg hinge more than I ever had because I never did that before, right? Mm-hmm. I can do all these things now pain-free that I was not able to do previously. And I'm kind of like moving forward and using what you had said is thinking about the longer term. So it's no longer about the short term, 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 12 weeks from now. I want to feel a certain way. There's the finish line. It's like, no, I want to continuously evolve into the very best version of myself. But in order to do that, I have to work on my infrastructure. And that's where these adhesions come in. And I was so gummed up, so glued up. Like, and I know that I still am. Like, you know, you said, hey, I still have more work to do on my thoracic spine. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, because I can feel that. I'm so much better than where I was a year ago by far. But now I'm like, wow, I can actually see a version of myself that will be more athletic in my 50s than I was in my 30s because I'm now focused on areas of inhibition, of range of motion that I was not focused on. I was just like, well, I'm fucking strong and I'm jacked. So, you know, that's good enough at that stage. So again, it's removing these adhesions, which is so fascinating over time of having experienced it. And you had said in the very beginning, because I was like, all right, these nerves, I get these nerves, but my MRI doc said I have all of these disc bulges.
Mm-hmm.
How are we going to, because I feel better, but how is that going to heal my discs? And you gave me some really good, you educated me on how this process works. So maybe for the folks listening, because I was a little too short-sighted in, well, how does A plus B equal C, healed discs?
Yeah.
How does fixing a nerve, unadhesing a nerve, fix my disc? And maybe let you kind of expand on that.
Yeah. By far, the most common condition we treat in the office is disc problems, low back, and cervical spine. Let's put radial shockwave aside because we can likely regenerate cartilage 15 to 30% with the radial shockwave machine when you put the proper forces on the discs with that. And they're probably getting into some way we can heal cartilage with electricity in the next 20 or 30 years. You and I have talked about that. So that's exciting too. Put that aside. The disc doesn't herniate, inflame, bulge itself. It's just passive tissue. It just absorbs force from the bones nearby, and then all the muscle tissue around the spine and the body is what moves the body. Thinking about it that way, it's how our muscles move. That's the muscles and the nerves are the environment that our spine and our discs live. When you have a disc problem, it's because there has been overload, excessive force on that disc. I don't know the newtons, but let's say a disc is 300% overloaded for X period of time for however many years. A surgeon will go and they will do the disc, not remove any adhesions. What happens? The load is still 300% higher than it should be on that disc, and then people wonder why they get the next level disc problem in the next 5 to 10 years, which is extremely common. When you start removing adhesions around the nerves, in the muscles, in the tendons, so on and so forth, each time you do a treatment, you're reducing the load on that area of the spine by 20%. I'm making up a number. Yep. And the more that you do that, and then the more that you strengthen, you're shifting the load from the discs in the spine back to the musculature, especially when it's strong, so that the muscles take the load and do their job, which I would argue, by the way, is most of what fitness should be doing, which is maximizing the muscle load and minimizing the joint load. Joints still need load too, but the joints are going to get a normal, healthy load with decent range of motion and proper muscle balance in the front and the back of the body. Yep. So when you reduce the load so that the muscles go from 25% load up to 100% and the discs go from 300% down to 100%, now the discs have space without that load to heal and to recover. And that's what will allow at least the inflammation to wash out of the disc. And then we don't know enough about the regeneration of cartilage. I fully believe that we can regenerate cartilage without the technologies that they're going to be coming up with. People do it. I think it's a lot about subconscious belief and how relaxed we are in a parasympathetic rest and digest state, and how well we're eating and how much we're in touch with nature. So I believe that disc can heal. But generally speaking, we tell people that once every disc episode that you have, you're essentially tearing the disc even more. So if you have a 30% irreversibly damaged disc, now it's 32% for your episode. If somebody has an episode every twice a year, and it started when they were 20 year old, and now they're 50, and maybe that's 2% a year, that's 24. Maybe that's like 24, 48% degenerated.
Yeah.
So that's where sometimes people are like, oh, it's not a big deal. I get an episode twice a year. It lasts a day or two. I'm like, it did last a day or two. Typically what happens is they get more intense and they last longer, and you're doing irreversible damage and you're developing more adhesion as time goes by. And so that's why I recommend that people get their adhesions removed. As the best time to get their adhesions removed was yesterday. The next best time is today. And sometimes people want to wait a couple years. And like for me, I'm I have a seminar in St. Louis at the end of August, and I'm flying out 2 days early. And I asked Dr. Matt, can you treat me for an hour each day? He's going to treat me for Friday. He's going to treat me for 5 days, like 30 to 60 minutes each day, because I have a very high standard for keeping my body pain free. And I have a little bit of, like right now in my body, I can feel like a 0.5 weird sensation in my hip. I want it to be 0.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be there any more intensely. I don't want it there lasting any longer. And that is how I can create as much longevity as possible. And then beyond that, it's choosing the middle road of fitness. I think the middle road is a Buddhist concept, or a better analogy is probably Goldilocks. I don't want too much porridge. I don't want too little porridge. I want the right amount of porridge that maximizes my muscle balance and strength and does all my other fitness attributes when it comes to cardiovascular health and all that stuff. And I don't really know what the right amount is until later. We have to look in hindsight. But we're trying to find the right amount of fitness that allows us to get healthier and fitter and last longer. If we're doing workouts all the time, people will not have any symptoms during the workout. They'll feel worse the next day. And I have to explain to them, if you're feeling the worst the next day, you're overloading your tissue. You shouldn't be feeling worse unless it's muscle soreness. You shouldn't be feeling worse in a different type of symptom, because that means there's excessive load on a joint, and we really want to minimize that.
Yeah. Yes. Love it and appreciate. Now, I know we only got a little bit of time left. Are there for those listening, are there any things that they should be doing as a part of their daily practice? Let's just say human hygiene. If and I know you and I spoke, like, we hate the top 3 things to fix your shoulder. So I did all of those. None of them fixed me. But are there a list of things the average person should be avoiding in their daily life? And then a second list of things that they should probably be doing more of to simply help their cause. Everyone's unique. Everyone's different. We all manifest dysfunction in our own way. But do you have any sort of general guidelines that those folks listening can start to implement? Because a lot of people get so confused by all of the opinions. Every time you open up an algorithm, you're going to get hit with just bullshit, contradictory. Dr. Rhonda Patrick, I mean, people like that, they hold themselves as the experts and they contradict themselves so often, right? She bananas all the time. Now don't eat bananas. And because there was backlash, now she's saying, no, I mean, you can absolutely eat bananas, right? So folks like that, I don't know if they're good or bad people. I know that they're wrong. And they're confusing the fuck out of the rest of the world. Can you give just some general human hygiene tenets that the people listening can maybe hear and say, oh, you know what? I need to be doing a little bit more of the thing Doc Chris said, or a little bit less of the other thing Doc Chris said.
It's funny you just said her name, because I don't know if I told you this. I had a question for you, but I think she said you shouldn't eat bananas with blueberries anymore. And I told Katie, and she looked at me like, what the fuck? But I give the kids bananas. I'm not allowed to give them because the banana, the enzyme will block the blueberry. Maybe she's right. I don't know. But I thought, I was like, oh, you can't eat bananas and blueberries anymore.
She's 100% wrong. It's clickbait bullshit. She is notorious for this. Came from a study of 8 people. And she has done this multiple times. Back when she was pushing keto and low fat, she used a study that had like 4 or 6 obese women that had some sort of positive outcome because of a keto diet. Therefore, everybody should be following a keto diet. And that was the algorithm that she was pushing. Now, I don't know Dr. Rhonda. I don't know Dr. Rhonda. Good person, bad person, I don't know. But she is not a doctor meant to help humans. She is a content creator meant to make money off of getting people to watch her information. She's not treating anyone. She's not a Dr. Chris Stepien. She's not a Coach Mike Dolce. Yeah. We make our living changing people's lives, not creating content. I'm shit at creating content because I don't give a fuck about it. I care about the humans I interact with on a daily basis. So and that's why my content is so simple. I say the same fucking shit almost every day for the last 20 plus years. I told you, and Mark Bell was like, man, you'd make so much more money if you're willing to lie a little bit.
Told me. Yeah.
Right? And I laughed. I was like, yeah, thank you. That's a compliment. He's like, no, it was meant as a compliment. I was like, good. So for the Dr. Rondas and the Dr. Mike Israetels and the Gary Breckers and the Paul Saladinos and the Ben Greenfields and the Jordan Syeds and all these other motherfuckers who are out there just creating content. Dr. Lane Norton, right? Just creating content to entertain. It's no different than a Netflix fucking sitcom is what they're creating. Yeah. But now having a real doctor that actually helps humans live better lives. Do you have any insight that the average person at home can go, oh, yeah, you know what? I need to be doing a little bit more of that. And Doc Chris is right. I should be doing a little bit less of that.
Yeah. And just to throw you a bone, you did tell me about the Mark Bell conversation. And one of the things, when I meet somebody who has relatively high status like yourself, I get worried about the type of person they are. And I love that I feel like you're an intelligent, critical thinker, but you're also somebody who has a huge heart. And I think that's why that I consider you in such high regard. And I just wanted to say that I appreciate even like calling out people based on what you believe. I think it's really needed in the world right now. And I'm very grateful to you for the way that you are. So kudos to you.
That means a lot coming from you, Chris. Likewise, brother. I mean, deep respect, my man. So thank you for saying that. And it's, I'm not, go slightly further. I'm not a negative person, and I wish that I could be. I wish that I could be a douchebag like Lane Norton, and I could call out all these people like, oh, this guy, he's a piece of shit. Look at this. I just don't have that negativity in my heart, even though that guy is a douchebag and he is a liar and he is a piece of shit. And all the information he's talking about is wrong. If I'm like, I'm going to create the best reel, it's going to go so viral. I'm like, I don't want to be involved in that energy field completely. I just want to serve and love and care and provide value and help change people's lives. Even though that guy gets me mad because I'll use Lane as an example of, who Lane Norton is, right?
I do.
I look at a guy like Lane. He has this big platform. And instead of using his platform to truly help serve his community and provide value and change lives for the better, he simply uses it to glorify himself, his ego, and his bank account. Full stop. Yeah. He does not provide valuable, useful, honest information, regardless of his ability to monetize it. If he cannot monetize it, if he cannot get clicks off of it, if it does not bolster his own standing, he will suppress it, not talk about it, and not put it out there. Like, he just did a video about his full day of eating. His full day of eating is a commercial for a sponsor. So is that how you really eat? I hope not, because he starts his day with 2 David bars. So he starts his day with that. Then he has meal delivery, right? Processed microwave food he gets delivered that's pre-frozen, pre-packaged, lots of preservatives added into there. Then he has a bowl of honeycomb cereal, pre-workout, because, bro it up. And I forget what the rest he has. I'm like, this fucking dude is a PhD in nutrition, and this is the best he can do? And he's talking to a bunch of folks at home? Like, who's going to spend $4 on a David bar and eat 2 of those in the morning? So anyway, you see I get a little heated. Folks like that. So I was like, I could do a takedown video of a guy like him, but I'll just rant to you for 30 seconds on a podcast, and I'll just move on back to my regular life again.
I love the fire, though. I love it. Yeah, I mean, what comes to mind? First thing is people need to have good mechanics when they move. If people have good mechanics, they're going to have healthier joints. They're going to have less adhesion. They're going to prevent adhesion. The question is how you do that. You can try various fitness coaches. I don't know if you're doing anything. You can try Sean's Active Life RX, different providers do that stuff. My friend, Dr. Corey at Stay Active Clinic in Nashville, has this cool app where he's having people do this. It's basically a sensation check where you reach up and reach down to check for sensations in the body, and then you report what emotion or thought that you're having. And if you're very scared or you're very stressed out, you don't do high intensity workouts. That's very interesting to me because a few times that I've hurt myself doing deadlifts or some other exercises, I was very stressed out and very intense. So like that's a really great app that he has. For any of the good physical therapists or strength coaches out there, people can work on strengthening. How do we get better mechanics? So that is vitally important. And then managing what people do throughout the day. I can't tell you how many people throughout the day you look like you're sitting properly, and we may have talked about this, but the sit, slide, lean rule. You have to sit your butt down, slide your back all the way against the back of the chair, and lean against the back of the chair. How many people are leaning forward out of their chair and typing and like trying to jump into the computer? Probably 80% of our clients or patients sit like that. Kim knows when she does the report of findings before I treat them for the first treatment, she tells everybody about that sit, slide, lean rule.
She told me. I remember.
It minimizes the load on the entire spine from like 300 to 100%. I'm pretty sure those are actual numbers. Yep. So that's important. You don't want to be sitting on a physio ball for 8 hours in perfect posture because people don't realize even when you're sitting without back support, all of your muscles in the front and the back of your spine are going to be engaged. And when they're contracting a little bit, you're compressing your spine because the tissue is moving on the front and the back. It's bringing things together. But when you're deloaded and you're using the back support, the vertebrae actually separate and create a little bit of a decompression effect. So that's another example. The other thing is probably trite, but what does a plant need in order to express health? If a plant has yellow leaves, nobody thinks to myself, I'm just going to paint these leaves green. They think to themselves, is the plant getting enough sunlight? Is it getting enough water? Does it have enough healthy nutrition in the soil? We don't think of ourselves as plants because the Western mind is reductionist by nature and puts everything in a science experiment and tries to deal with those variables, but we're not dealing with things holistically. So if somebody, one of my family members is extremely sick, depressed, getting Alzheimer's, and we went on vacation together. She's going to bed at 3 a.m. and getting up around 12 every single day. And then when we got home, we're sitting in my backyard or my deck, and she's like, Chris, you're so tan. And I said, your name, you were down the shore with me. And she's like, I don't like the sun. And I'm just thinking to myself, if this woman would just get sunlight and go to sleep according to her circadian rhythm, so much of her shit would be way better. Yep. But when people are going to eat, I eat crappy sometimes. If they're not going to eat 90, 95% whole, highly nutritious foods, if they're going to be in a toxic relationship they just won't get out of, if they have a negative emotional state all the time and they're not going to work on getting that better, if all of the pieces to our health are not fully optimized, we're going to suffer more than necessary. And that, again, it's trite. It's kind of been said. I don't know if it's been said enough, but for somebody to perceive, I like this thought experiment. I'm giving you, Mike Dolce, $100,000 to give me advice. I did this to one of my colleagues or friends, and she's like, I'm so stuck with all of my negative bullshit. I can't lose weight. I'm struggling, emotional health issues. I said, it sounds like you need to, one of the best ways that I have found to change subconscious belief is to meditate. And I'm a huge fan of Joe Dispenza, doing an hour, 90 minutes a day. And I was like, okay, Emily, you just gave me $10,000. Here's my advice. Commit to meditating 10 minutes a day for the next month. Can you sit and do anything for 10 minutes? Yeah, I could do anything for 10 minutes. Okay, you gave me $10,000. You didn't really give it to me. Imagine the stakes were that high. You gave me $10,000. Now you're going to meditate 10 minutes a day. I promise you, if you do just that, you're going to want to go to 20 minutes a day, month 2. If you keep doing this, your life will change. So for people to frame what their changes and their shifts, to first sit their asses down and have a deep conversation with myself about my health and the rest of my life, to perceive how precious life is. I'm going to die someday. To look at my parents or my grandparents and how they suffered, to realize what is coming down the road, and then to talk to oneself and say, I really want to enjoy the most of this life. as maximally as I can to understand that optimizing holistically all of my healthcare routines, and to imagine I just gave Mike Dolce $100,000 and he gave me advice, and to sit down and do a list and start to chip away at the list and to become disciplined at what we're doing. There's nothing that can replace that. There's nothing. And I forget what I was going to say about, I had another piece. Hopefully it'll come back to me. But I lost. I'm annoyed now. Give me 5 seconds. Will Smith, the famous mystic, Will Smith, the same guy who punched Chris Rock in the face. But here's what he said. He said, self-discipline is self-love. And that's one of my top 5 favorite quotes, because people always talk to me about how disciplined I am. If I'm not disciplined, I will want to kill myself for extended periods of time. And I don't like the feeling of my mood. So I've become ultra disciplined, waking up at 5 a.m. I do an hour of meditation. I do my Qigong stuff. I do my rehab stuff. I go for a walk. I go to the gym. And then at night, I meditate for another 30, 45 minutes. I make sure I'm outside for 4 hours a day. If I don't do my disciplined shit, I feel like crap. I'm happy that I'm allergic to treating my body not holistically. Other people are more tolerant, and sometimes I'm jealous of them, but I'm really not, because at 41, I think I'm healthier than most people. When you think about being disciplined as a form of self-love, it just gives it a different parameter to what we're doing here. And my other favorite quote is Jersey Gregorick. Hard choice is easy life, easy choice is hard life. And life is going to be hard either way. I have family members who have said they've done nothing. They've been complacent, watch TV 4 hours a day. They're like, Chris, my life has been hard. I'm like, damn, my life is hard too. But I'd rather choose the hard of making myself better and providing for my family, making other people better, than choosing the hard of doing nothing. That's what I came up with.
Fucking love it. Now you would spot on, 100% agreed. And you went exactly the way Dr. Chris would go, not the way I thought you might go in the beginning, because I thought you might say, hey, you know what? You should be doing this and then that and then this, but that's not who you are. I love the context in what you had said. And I want to co-sign where you said the self-discipline is self-love. And 100% agreed. Every Wednesday night, I host a men's group from 8 to 10 p.m., love it, right? Men talking about men's issues and just the whole thing. And one of the guys in the group had said, Coach, every so often I feel motivated. And it's like this, I get like empowered with this energy and I'm so motivated. And then it's gone. And I don't know how to get it back. And I laughed in that it is illogical to believe our emotional state should dictate logical action. It's not. And I use the term The Rock's magic pixie dust. Dwayne The Rock Johnson does not creep in your bedroom at 5 a.m. and sprinkle magic motivational pixie dust on you. You jump out of bed ready to go. I said, so don't think in terms of motivation and don't think in terms of discipline. Simply think in terms of systems. You have a system. You wake up at 5 a.m. You meditate. You go through your day. I have a very similar system. I have just structure. That is discipline. That is motive. Call it whatever you want, but it is a very clear system that I do not break. I don't care if I'm cold, if I'm tired, if I'm scared, if I'm lonely, if I'm depressed, if I'm happy, if it's wintertime or summertime. I have a system that I follow. And the system was logically designed to get me to a very specific outcome that I'm planning on, I'm yearning for, right? Now, I might change the system if I change my desired outcome. But once I know exactly what I'm trying to accomplish, I create a system. I follow the system until feedback shows me the system is flawed. It's a little bit, I need to course correct. Now I will fix the system. And so to your point, a lot of folks might look at you or maybe look at me and say, oh man, I just don't have your discipline. I don't have discipline. Like I have a system that I just follow. So I've completely removed my emotion from everything that I do inside this range. Now I might be sad while I'm waking up at 5 a.m. and I'm drinking my 32 ounces of room temperature water with a sprinkle of sea salt and getting my black coffee and getting ready for my fasted cardio. I might be happy. Like I might be super stressed out, or I might just be on vacation. My emotional state does not matter. But what I will say, the more I follow my system, the better I can regulate my emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Now I have a very predictable template I can follow. And I have purpose, and I have a scoreboard that shows me, hey, I did good yesterday. Like I checked all these little boxes along my way yesterday. Like, wow, I'm making progress here. Like, wow. So I have that. And I think we all need that also, that little criteria, almost like in your office, like, hey, how are you doing compared to last time to this time? Right. And you guys, your team is so amazing at all the data that you guys collect. Mm-hmm. Like, it's crazy, like how big my file is and the way you communicate with your team. And there's like, hey, check. I don't even know half the time what you guys are talking about, but I'm like, I know, like, oh, that sounds, and oddly, a lot of my shit's always moderate to severe, which I always laugh about. I'm waiting for like clear. Not yet. But the data that you have, and I know how much progress I'm making objectively because you have that data also that's set. But similar in this larger system, right? So discipline, self-discipline is self-love. And that is respecting yourself enough to believe in your ability to succeed and giving yourself a program or a plan, a template to follow that will get you there. I'll use the last maybe strained analogy. Somebody wants to run a marathon. Yeah. Go ahead. I guess go ahead. Or it's like, right. Okay, here's your plan for tomorrow. You got to run 1 mile. You got to walk 1 mile tomorrow. And the next day you got to walk a mile and a half. And you got to walk 2 miles. And then all of a sudden you're going to jog 1 mile. And all of a sudden now there's a plan because I believe you're going to finish the marathon. Here's the plan so you can then accomplish the marathon instead of just the ambivalence of, maybe I will, maybe I won't. And that's how most people, I believe, treat themselves. They don't hold themselves to a standard. And I think that's where maybe the discipline and motivation comes in. But I'll take it back to the self-love. And maybe that's what the world is missing.
Definitely. Yeah. I mean, I would say most people, when I did the interview with Dave Tate in January, he was saying, he's like, nobody loves himself. That's an absolute. But I think that there's a lot of shame, self-worth, and buried down trauma in the world, in this country. And we also don't have, I'm fond of this, but the indigenous roots to clean up the trauma. In the way, I love the story Gabor Mate used to talk about, where there was a bus in Washington State or in Vancouver, and there was indigenous people and white people on the bus. There was some accident. They almost died. The white person, they were shook up and they were getting ready to go home. And the indigenous person said, "Where are you going? We have ceremony. We have to go recover from this trauma right now." And I love that story. So that just speaks to what leads to the lack of self-love, and then the parents not teaching their children how to love themselves. But another carrot for me, as far as the self-discipline, is there's a part of the brain called the anterior mid-cingulate gyrus that's associated with willpower and overcoming challenges. And there's research that says that the bigger that area of the brain, the longer somebody will live. Whether it's that variable leads to you doing other things that take care of yourself, or whether it's just that you overcome hard shit and get to the habit of doing it, you will live longer and have a more prosperous life by doing hard things. And that's why with my sons, my partner Katie and I, Bear is 8 years old, Koa is 5, we're constantly talking about when they do something, they achieve something, how do you feel? You worked really hard at this thing. If they say like, oh, I'm really good at that thing, I'm like, no, you're not. You just practice 20 baseball swings and then you hit the ball. And because you practice a lot, you did that. Because I know that without that work ethic, I probably would not be here. One more quick story. I played football from 3rd grade to 8th grade. Love football. The reason why I didn't play in 9th grade is I was scared to shower with the other dudes. And then I started playing in 10th grade, and then all the guys were covering their penises. I was like, oh, what was I doing last year? Anyway, when I played in 10th grade, one of my good friends up the street started playing in 10th grade. In training camp, 2 weeks in, he quit. it was very hard. I went to West Essex High School in New Jersey, very aggressive, violent culture. Not like violent hazing wise, but like very physical. And so it was harder than my camp in college playing football. He quit. I grew apart from him, but about 7 years ago, he died from a heroin overdose. And I was talking to my other best friend who lived near us about 2 weeks ago, and we were talking about Zach. And I was like, Nick, if Zach didn't quit in 10th grade football and played in 11th and 12th grade in that culture, I think he'd still be here. So it's just hard to say how facing our fears and overcoming resistance and developing habits, disciplines, and systems, it's such a meta skill that is so life-changing. I mean, it's talked about, but I don't know if we're doing a good enough job in helping people overcome their BS. And I think it's vitally important, and it's what I spend most of my time doing with our providers, which is they're not doing something they're supposed to be doing. And what do I have to do to say to you to get you to do your thing? Same with the patients. You're doing this stupid thing over and over again. What do I have to do to shift it or change it?
Yeah. It's so true. The ability to do hard things, as you say, earlier. The hard thing for most people is to stop doing the things that are actually hurting them. Right? It's not hard for someone to go for a walk. It is hard for them to go to bed at 9 p.m. at night. Right? It's hard for someone to say no to the alcohol their spouse is also drinking and offering them. It's hard for them to say no at work when Lisa from accounting is offering everybody donuts or cookies, right? Those are then the hard things in life that most people don't understand. They think, oh, yeah, taxes are hard. It's like, no, the bigger issue is the things that they have direct influence over. And most of the folks I come in contact with, all of their issues are self-inflicted. I'm more of a psychologist or a psychiatrist than I am of a nutrition coach. And I always say, the chicken and rice is the least of what I do for most folks. It's unraveling the yarn in their brain, the knots that they have up there that create these default systems that they're running that are counterintuitive or contrary to their stated goals. And it's kind of helping unwire that stuff. And then we fall back into, the systems or the discipline or just creating this nice path forward. And the way that you speak to your sons, I love, we have a similar system. We don't compliment our children on talent. We compliment on work ethic. Mm-hmm. It's not a matter of like, oh God, you're such a good singer. It's like, you've worked really hard on that song. It sounded beautiful. Keep working. Mm-hmm. Like, the compliment is in their character, not in any inherent talent per se. It's like, you work so hard. You took responsibility there. We really appreciate that. Like whatever the thing, you vacuum the house, or wow, you really showed initiative there. Like, you take charge, don't you? So it's kind of like, as a coach, that self-leading type of conversation. But it's rare that we actually do that to ourselves, isn't it?
The hardest person to change is what's looking back at us in the mirror. We can give all the people the advice in the world outside of us, but then when it comes to us, it's hard. That's very difficult to do. You're reminding me, Derek Sivers said, if it were only about information, everybody in the world would have six-pack abs and $1 million in the bank account. So what you're talking to is the behavioral aspect to this. Yeah. And it's tricky, but there's nothing else. The obstacle is the way. We have to go through that obstacle. And then especially for the parents, like the mothers and fathers, when I talk to different people, when I talk to providers or people in chronic pain or people with emotional shit or trauma, what I speak to them about is, you have an opportunity to be a different person who shows your sons and your daughters how to heal and recover from the things that you're doing. And if you don't do these things, you are passing your wounds and your trauma and your stories onto them. And that's one of the most impactful conversations I can have with anybody, because I will get tears very often. People will say I start to see certain patterns in their children. And I'm like, that is why. It's not that I'm perfect. I fuck up all the time with my sons. I fuck up all the time with Katie. but the awareness comes back to, this is what I did this in the past, this is what I'm going to do next time, and then I make progress. As long as we are aware, controlled folly is a Toltec concept around, something isn't best for you, but you're keeping awareness up. You're not blacking out when you do a certain thing.
Yeah.
So I really like that concept because, I will do certain things. I smoke cannabis. It has benefit for me once a week, but there's also a cost. Like as I'm smoking, I'll usually say a prayer and then I'll smoke the cannabis and I'll feel good. And I'm just maintaining awareness and I'm watching myself as how hard it was for me to recover, how tired I was the next day. I was addicted to kratom for 2 years. You helped me get off of it. As long as we have that awareness too, we will metabolize the suffering, the pain of why we're using that thing. And especially if we can create some space between, if I want to smoke right now, can I at least sit in the pain of why I'm urging to smoke for the next 20 minutes and just be here with it in order to understand and see the patterns that are causing me to want to do this thing. Because then we have the awareness and then we can take action in a different way. And that's kind of some of the meta skills that I use for my own shit that holds me back.
Yes. On this show years ago, and then, every year or two I tell this story. It's called the Kit Kat story, and I'll paraphrase it. Maybe 2010 or 11, I'm still fighting. I'm in a training camp coaching Quentin Rampage Jackson. He's getting ready for a fight, and I have this, smaller venue fight, but it's like 3,000 people I'm fighting in front of in a different venue. It's great. And we're going through this training camp, and I'm ahead of schedule. And I just had this craving for a fucking Kit Kat bar. I honestly, Chris, I just wanted the emotional release of eating this piece of chocolate. And we're over in Liverpool, England. That's where his camp is. And I'm in charge of the groceries, right? So every Sunday morning I get in this BMW and I drive to the grocery store and I fill up and I'm like, Kit Kat bar. I buy this 4-pack of Kit Kat. Yes. I'm like, all right, Sunday, I'm going to put the groceries away. I'm going to do all this stuff, my responsibilities, get it all done. And then after dinner, I'm going to make love to this Kit Kat bar all over my bedroom. Right? After dinner, I'm just going to walk away. And of course, Monday, it's hey man, Monday, 6 a.m., back on the fucking road work, got to train, go. So I go through the day. Got the Kit Kat bar. I'll use this. And I put it down on my bedside table. I get in bed. I'm going to watch The Matrix, on a DVD or something. And I look at it and I was like, I could eat you right now, Kit Kat bar, but I choose not to. I might eat you in 5 minutes. But in this moment, I choose not to because I felt a little bit of the lust. And I felt that kind of uncontrollable, urge. And I was outside of myself. And I had that little bit of awareness in that moment. I could eat you right now. I choose not to. Put it there. Start watching the movie and it's there. And I'm just drinking my tea, whatever. It's all right. Tomorrow morning, though, after my run with a cup of black coffee, I'm going to fuck that Kit Kat bar up. Next morning comes, do the run, everything else, come back home, breakfast upstairs. I got my cup of coffee, Kit Kat bar sitting on my bedside table. I could eat you right now, Kit Kat bar, but I choose not to. And over the next 6 weeks in that camp, that Kit Kat bar, it sat on my bedside table, literally right next to me. I saw it every time I came in and out of the room, it was there. I saw it. And thousands of times I fantasized about making love to this Kit Kat bar in all sorts of pornographic ways. I just wanted to, go after the tear off its clothes and just shove it in my mouth. So camp is done. And so the last day of camp, last hard sparring, that's when I'm going to celebrate. Before leaving, I'm going to have this Kit Kat bar. Fast forward, what happens? I could eat you right now, Kit Kat bar. I choose not to. I threw it in my luggage. After weigh-ins, I got to go and fight this guy named Nuri Shakur, who's got 40 fights. I got a couple fights, right? I got to go fight. He's a main event. He's the big guy in his area. I got to go fight him in his backyard. Big, scary, black, ghetto-looking black guys. Awesome. It was a really good kind of avatar. So I'm fuck, man, scary shit. I'm going to break that with this. Weigh in, eat my Kit Kat bar, then I'll be ready to fight. Weigh-ins come and go. This guy screaming at me before I even walk into the venue. This white motherfucker, I'm going to fuck you up. And I was whoa, shit. Got to pretend like I'm like not even phased by it. I am, of course. Do the weigh-ins, face off, all that stuff. Refeed, follow my protocols, refeed, night before bed, Kit Kat bar. I could eat you right now, Kit Kat bar. I choose not to. I'm going to go knock this motherfucker out. And I was like, oh, that's the perfect ending to my story. From the last 6-7 weeks now, I can finally eat this Kit Kat. That's why I haven't eaten it this far. I'm going to eat it the night I win the fight. Oh, it's perfect. Go out there. I almost got knocked out in the first round. This fucker clocks me. I'm seeing 3 of them. Somehow I'm like faking that I'm not hurt at all. And he thinks I'm not hurt, so he doesn't attack me. And then that gives me the space to go out there and I wind up knocking this fucker out. So after the fight, it's all happy, good stuff. And we go out, have a nice like team dinner and whatnot. And then I go back to the room, Kit Kat bar right there. I could eat you right now, Kit Kat bar, but I choose not to. And brother, I threw it in the garbage can.
Wow.
From that night forward, I have never had an urge I could not control.
Wow.
And I have the like, ooh, looks good. I want that, right? I have never been moved to action by an urge outside of my decision to do so because of that experience I had in 2011. And I tell the story so often for those listening and to like, cause you have that similar thought and mentality and frame of mind. What I was able to develop a system, rewire my brain, practice. I use, this term. I was able to have enough reps in delayed gratification and self-control that it just became a part of me. And now it's like, yeah, man, I want a slice of, everyone's eating pizza. I want a slice of pizza. I choose not to. I choose not to, and taking the accountability, responsibility for my choice. I'm not a victim to my circumstance, my environment. I'm actually making an active choice in what then happens in my story moving forward. So that is my Kit Kat story, which is always a fun one to relive in a moment, in a way.
You chose, and you said I choose at every. I heard you say I choose. So every present moment that came again, I continue to choose. I continue to choose, and I think that's a very powerful frame for the path that you want to walk down. You're saying that this is who I might choose, and then you did it so long that was very difficult and hard that you overcame. Yeah, that's why your anterior mid-cingulate gyrus is so gigantic. It's just bulbing out of your brain.
Well, I thought that's all the welts and the wounds, probably from Nourish Occur hitting me with an overhand fucking right.
Dude.
I do. Yeah. All right, so now it's winding down. Now, you had mentioned before, which is super exciting. So you actually have now put some of your content online. Now, outside of your in-person hands-on manual practice, which is by far the gold standard, but for those listening right now, you said there's like a $9 a month program that you have. And tell me a little bit more about this, because that's the cost of a cup of coffee in today's era. What exactly is this? Where can we find out more about it?
I did a program in 2020 during COVID called Pain Free and Happy. It was 10 weeks long. And the idea was people can't work or whatever. I was still working, but people can't work. I wanted to see if I could put together a program outside of treatment that would help people get out of pain. And it worked very well, but it was cost prohibitive for a lot of people. I think it was like $1,500. So recently with my consultant, we were talking about potentially doing something else much cheaper. My goal with it is to put everything I know in a system that would help people get out of pain, be healthier, and be happier. It's called the Pain-Free Nerve Protocol. So it has some nerve flossing techniques, and then it has some lacrosse ball work, similar to what Kelly Starrett has recommended, but I'm biasing the nerves in that protocol. So I show some of the anatomy of where the nerves live, and then how to move your body to just floss the nerves back and forth, which is maybe similar to pin and stretch. But I saw some research a few months ago now with some rats who overused their paws, and they had median nerve inflammation in here and adhesions. And then they got manual therapy, and their nerve inflammation, the adhesions went away, or were much better than just rest. And that renewed. I used to do some lacrosse ball work when I owned the CrossFit gym. I got away from it. And then I thought to myself, okay, there is some use here for regular massage therapy and just physical pressure where the body's hurting. And so that's the core of the system. And then I'm using, like I've showed you, the canister exercise and the serratus reach exercise. So we're putting Dr. Ryan Pribble's Axiom Movements rehab system that we've been using at Barefoot Rehab for all of our patients in there so that people can strengthen. With that said, we typically always recommend to our patients manual therapy first, strengthening after. Regular physical therapists are just doing strengthening anyway. So I'm saying to myself, this rehab system we use is so low risk compared to what other physical therapists are having people do. You're laying on your back and you're learning how to brace your core. And there are all these different progressions, 8 to 12 progressions of how you stabilize your core before you get into quadruped and do the same bracing motion. And if you can get into quadruped and you can brace, then you could do a squat or a hinge safely. But if somebody's doing squats and deadlifts and they can't even do a supine face up brace, that's a problem. Yeah. So we're putting that whole rehab system up on the course. I just put you're one of my functional medicine doctors, or put Ryan Siverson's elimination diet on there for people who have food triggers. And then I'm just going to put other stuff that I have in my head that I don't necessarily always think about up there for people to get some type of tidbit to address their nerves and their adhesions, but also their holistic health in order to deliver value so that they have less pain, they feel healthier, they feel happier. There's a community on there. And I could also talk to them and see where people have issues so that I can work on other stuff. But I want to deliver. We get a lot of people from DMs from people in Asia or India. And I'm like, there's one guy in India. There's nobody in Asia. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You have to fly to New Jersey or England. And it's just something that I can do that can offer value. And not everybody's going to – some people just have adhesions. Not everybody's going to get value to it. But I was like – we had it priced at $40 a month. We changed it recently. I was like, you know what? I need more people trying this stuff at a lower cost to just see if they get results and to see how things go in order to see what works. So that's why we developed that program.
And where can it be found?
Painfreenerveprotocol.com.
Painfreenerveprotocol.com. I'll actually link that.
Appreciate that.
In the show notes for you. And I would strongly suggest for the $9, if anyone is dealing with any form of pain, spend the $9, get inside there and see if you can find relief. I mean, geez, I will happily spend $9 to get relief in any area to start unpeeling the onion. And then who knows, that can then be a gateway into greater protocols or then further reaching out to yourself and your team, which if anyone is suffering from severe pain, you must, and Chris, I'll put also your link below for folks to reach out to you directly at your Denville office and have a conversation with you, your amazing team. You know, I should pause briefly and mention the atmosphere you have cultivated at Barefoot Rehab is incredible. I've never walked into any office before, any office, that had that type of loving, inclusive, healing energy. Everyone is so friendly and caring. Like, I can't explain, I can't put it into words. Like, I feel so loved and so safe and so protected once I walk into your office, into, you know, the whole environment is so incredible. Every face is smiling while also being extremely competent and professional, right? It's like there's this fine line that somehow you should be running. I mean, you should be running a curriculum on how to run an office and how to create that type of environment, which is so confidence building. As a patient, Lord knows, I have been in dozens of different offices from massage therapists and doctors and acupuncturists and chiropractors and physiotherapists and goddamn, go through the list. Like so many different versions over time. So you and your team, so amazing. It's like the ability to come there and experience that. And I believe that is a part of the healing force that I've received.
Well, so people matter, the energy around the people that are around us, and then also energy matters. I don't know if there's a term in the West for it, but feng shui. How does the energy around us feel? Or clean space, clean mind. Like that shit is health. Do we have shit tons of plants around us? Do we have light? How do things feel? I don't think we're very connected with our energetic bodies, but whether it's in your doctor or therapist office or at home, you probably will feel better or be healthier if the energy and the space that you're around matters. And then I could get into tending to the land and making sure that you're connected with their land around you, but space matters a lot.
Yeah. Well, you've done such a wonderful job there. It's like I remember when I was like kind of at the end of my neck healing, you're like, hey, I think you're pretty good. Like you can kind of, maybe come back a month from now. I was like, whoa, let's not break up so soon. Like I didn't want to leave the energy regardless of like, next good. That's great. Like I wanted to continue on inside the environment that you built. So kudos to you on that. It is very, very rare. I've never experienced that before. All right. Dr. Chris Stepien, thank you again so much. And what we like to do is everyone who's listening right now, if you are suffering from pain, if you've had your own issues in the past, if you have any questions, send me an email to coachmike@thedolcediet.com. Questions for Dr. Chris Stepien. And then, would you come back on a future episode and answer some of the questions of our amazing audience? I'm sure they're going to have quite a few for you. And then we can facilitate a little bit of a Q&A and we can dive a little bit deeper, maybe even do a call-in. We'll see, everybody. We'll see if I can figure out the technology to get that going. It's amazing I can actually, sit here and talk as it is. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed this, and I'd love an opportunity to serve whoever needed some help.
Absolutely. All right. So now, where can everyone find you? What is your preferred method of contact?
Best is probably my personal Instagram, which is Dr. Chris Stepian, I believe. It might be Dr. Christopher Stepien. Dr. Chris Stepian is probably the best place. If you DM Barefoot Rehab or Adhesion Release Methods, you might not get me. And then also remember that if you don't live near New Jersey or can't fly in to see us, you can find it at Adhesion Release Methods provider we train at www.findanadhesionprovider.com.
Excellent. Your YouTube channel, how big is your YouTube channel, by the way?
It's 920,000 or so.
Oh, everybody go and subscribe. And what is the YouTube channel?
Adhesion Release Methods.
Go on YouTube, Adhesion Release Methods. Start clipping on the videos. Watch the videos. You're going to find someone that is very similar to you. Yeah. Subscribe to the channel, of course. So let's try and help Dr. Chris break 1 million. I'm struggling at like 50,000 or so. I think maybe I'm losing members over time. But let's get help, a little bit of love over there, but go down the rabbit hole. That's how I found Dr. Chris. Popped up in my algorithm. I saw someone who was almost identical to me in what they were dealing with. And I could see in his eyes, he was struggling the same way that I was struggling. That kind of got me in. And I spent hours that day watching so many different videos. You have such a good database there. And then I, of course, continued on in the future.
I really appreciate you, Mike, on so many levels.
Well, likewise, my brother. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. Remember, don't count calories. Make calories count. Whoa!